Hey everyone, Troy McClure from Troy Tactical Defense coming at you here in the summer of 2022. I originally come back from a training not too long ago, and I was actually going through my collection that I have here available, and I came across two possibilities that I found that are very relevant, but that a friend of mine had actually asked. And that is whether or not the HK VP9, shown here, with a few extra options that I have on board with this, is it considered obsolete compared to what is now used today as what is called the Micro 9 series. Both have 15 round capacity in terms of their magazines. This has a paddle mag release. This is generation 1 with a 15 round magazine that is available. Or of course you can get the retrofit kit to be able to fit 2 additional rounds to make this a 17 round magazine. While I have here my everyday carry, which actually has 10 plus run rounds, but in this case 15 rounds because I've picked up a couple of these Shield Arms 15 round magazines that are available for the Glock 43X. And I argue that the VP9 is still extremely reliable, usable, and is still very relevant even in today's pistols, whether it be with the Micro 9 series that people are looking at or something that's a bit more modern like the Walther PDP. Now, I've already gone through a video entirely of the Walther PDP, and I'm sure you're pretty bored of that, but I wanted to really kind of go through a discussion about the utility and continued innovation that the HK VP9 has. First, I'll be honest, let's get into a little bit of history of the HK VP9, which was originally introduced in 2014. And to me, it was a game changer in several different ways. First, it was HK's first truly affordable pistol for the public in many years. Now, we're all used to the USP Compact 45. We used to have all the special ops pistols that are available from HK. HK always meant quality, but it also meant with the price. Much more expensive than even what SIG or some of the other companies were available at the time. HK is renowned for its quality, but was always kind of out of reach of the majority of the public for many years. Now, this is also their first striker fire pistol since the VP70, and I really think that they did a fantastic design on this the first time around, and it took many of the cues from their own P30 as a design foundation when they created the VP9. And I'll mention this more than once, so don't think that I made a mistake about this, but this pistol actually has one of the best out-of-the-box triggers to date, matching only with that of the Walther PPQ and PDP series. So let me give you a bit of background for this particular pistol that I've had. I've had this pistol since 2017, and I bought it used from someone who had only had it about 6 months. Not only did it come with 2 additional magazines, but it also came with an official threaded barrel from HK itself, and even had a box of ammunition that I got at a discounted price. So it was fantastic to start off out of the box. If you look back on any of the old videos that I have, back in 2019, I did a review on this, it's called Sabrina, and I compared it to the VP9 SK. I'll link to the older throwback videos for you on this channel. I don't have them up right now, but I think you'd want to see them. Not only did I talk about the pistol then, but I then made a subsequent video on how the different size magazines for both models, for the VP9 and VP9 SK, were able to fit with one another. I then had some custom port milling done on the slide, as you can see here, and even up here, giving kind of a warthog style.
Oh yeah, speed holes.
And I even had it cerakoted to look more like, have a bit more of a Star Wars theme back when I was really into having all of my pistols look like they came from like a stormtrooper. But it was when I first decided to cerakote this pistol that all the problems and nightmares had started. So it had been a long time since I'd fired this pistol and got everything just right. Let me give you some of the takeaways that I got from going through this entire process. The lessons learned, if you will. 1, be careful who you allow to disassemble the pistol for maintenance or cerakote prep. And one thing I found about this particular pistol, it is not one that is easy to disassemble. And And although I trusted my gunsmith to properly disassemble the weapon, his assistant lost the safety drop spring that goes to the slide. And although HK Parts had a replacement spring, it wasn't to the same standards as the original, and the pistol wound up constantly binding up, even through dry fire. I actually wound up sending it back to HK and was out some change for them to inspect and change out the spring to send it back.
Well, that's great. That's just fucking great, man.
Number 2. Be careful of who you allow to cerakote your pistol. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and disparage anybody or bury any names, but the first time it was cerakoted, and it was from a very reputable company, I was seriously excited and fantastic on how it looked, but little did I know that this coating job was substandard, and the actual coating on the slide, was coming off, exposing the steel underneath.
What?
So now I have to cerakote it again and have it take it apart again in order to do it properly.
You serious?
Third, you got to find the right people that can both cerakote and slide mill. It's not always easy to find those that can do both that combination without making a couple of stops, but I will name drop SlideWorks Engineering because they were the ones that actually were able to save me. See, the original plan for this was to add an optic in the first place, right? One that was going to be specifically milled forward in an RMR platform. And I finally found one, but now I knew that I needed to have it milled. HK doesn't sell the optic ready slide by itself and have it fit for my optic, but since it had to be recoated anyway, once again, SlideWorks Engineering came to the rescue. One of the last things that I found is that not every pistol needs an aftermarket trigger. If you notice right here, I actually am using a Lobos trigger for this particular model, and it is great as it really does reduce the amount of take-up travel that I'm looking for. I normally don't fall for this kind of thing. Usually I like stock triggers, especially from those that come from HK and from Walther, because they're just fantastic out of the box triggers. But I was a bit curious on how the Lobos trigger would assist with the bit of grit that I felt in the trigger pull. I purchased one, but unlike your average Glock, Walther, or CZ striker-fired pistol, I noticed that the VP9 is like a Porsche when compared to a Glock, which is more like a Honda Civic. Both are pieces of transportation that'll get you there, but the Porsche makes it a bit more complicated in its mechanics when it comes to repair, maintenance, and replacement of its items and parts, while the Civic makes repair, maintenance, and replacement a lot easier. I can do the aforementioned brands much more easily, but I knew when I was out of my lane that taking apart the VP9, especially even to do something as much as a trigger kit, is going to be a bit more complicated than I was willing to do.
Nobody touched nothing.
So with that, I held off until I found the right people to be able to install it for me. So like I said, big shout outs to SlideWorks Engineering. They did the optic cut here with placement bars in place, so this will not move once it's set in place. It's already got those set screws that are in there, and it's not a flat piece. It actually has raised grooves in there so that the optic will actually fit and hold in place no matter how much that it shakes out. Okay. I also had them actually re-cerakote it for me and just do the slide and turn the actual rest of their frame completely black. Okay. There was only a small hiccup when it came to the reassembly from their particular gunsmith that I had to be addressed later, but like I said, HKs can get complicated unnecessarily, and I don't really hold them too much fault about it. Lastly, nicely enough, thanks to them, they also installed the Lobos trigger. So how did it turn out? So far so good, because I've only had to put a few hundred rounds into the pistol over the years, and honestly just needs more rounds to make sure that it's better. It's like it's a brand new gun again, so that means I have to give it proper break-in. About the trigger itself, I really do like this Lobos trigger, but it's not for everybody, and once I have a bit more break-in time, it'll really be even better than the OEM really is. I don't recommend always changing to a different trigger unless you're doing it for competition shooting or anything like that, but I really do like the way that this one feels right now. Lastly, the optic itself. I went with the Holosun 407C, but this time I used a different type of dot on it. Instead of your standard 2 or 3 MOA dot, I went with the 6 MOA circle. And I decided to try this approach to find out if there was going to be any real difference between that and the actual dot that you see on most red dots, like the RMR or the Holosuns, or even one with the ACSS chevron that they use on there. So I was trying to find out if I would find a nice happy medium. Well, I found out something interesting about it. When compared to the PDP, which I talked about many times over, I found that when it came to target acquisition, follow-up targets, and shooting faster, I was able to use the 6 MOA circle a bit quicker than I could with the actual dot. Now, with the dot that was used for the for the PDP, I was actually able to be more accurate, even at a slower pace. But I found that I was more precise and able to acquire targets more quickly with the VP9 and this 6 MOA circle dot. It's not for everybody, but I really think that you should be able to try this out and find out for yourself. And obviously here I have my Olight Valkyrie PL Pro, but this is why I think that the HK VP9 is still relevant today. And this is why I still think, and I agree with Heckler Koch 45 and several others, that when it came to one of the best striker fire pistols out there, the VP9 is still one of the kings out there. Now, if you think about it, the SAR9 and the IWI Masada follow the same design cues as the VP9. So that's got to tell you something. As they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery. So that's something you might want to consider. If you can't get a VP9, check out the IWI Masada or even the SR9 if you're really worried about a budget and can't find one that's a good use price. It may not have every single feature that's exactly the same as the VP9, but I guarantee you that it's at least going to at least feel and have those same ergonomics as the VP9 does. If you have any comments or anything like that, go ahead and leave them in below. This is not something I had noticed. Thanks always for watching. Take care.